So stories. As children, we all love listening to stories, we love telling stories. Sometimes as adults, we forget the art of storytelling. And here with me to remind us the forgotten, the lost art of storytelling is master storyteller and author of Business Sutra, which will soon be available in bookshelves all over the country, is the Chief Belief Officer of the Future Group, Devdutt Pattanaik. Devdutt, first question for those who don't understand why a company needs a Chief Belief Officer.
Well, the company doesn't need a Chief Belief Officer. I think people need someone who helps them reaffirm their belief in belief.
Okay.
See, somewhere along the line, business has become about data and numbers and measurement, and we forget that at a fundamental level, business is about belief.
Okay.
And it is just to make people aware of this concept that we created this designation.
Okay.
Just to startle people and get invited to interviews like this.
And you are a professional mythologist.
Well,
you actually make your living telling stories.
Yes, I do.
Okay. So what drew you to the corporate world?
Well, I've always been in the corporate world, and I saw stories being told, not being told well.
Okay.
So I said, well, I can tell stories much better than this. Okay. And I could deconstruct stories that were being told and tell what they were actually telling.
Okay.
And there was a whole art of storytelling that was being lost.
Okay.
And the structures, the frameworks, there's a lot of science behind storytelling. And whatever I would read, I would find them rather pedestrian. So I said, okay. Rather than being smug about it, do something about it. So
right. You use the word belief in a corporation.
Yes.
Now, those two words usually don't fit in the same sentence. I can believe in a religion, I can believe in an ideology. I don't necessarily need to believe in a corporation. Let's assume the corporation makes cars. Yeah. I'm just working there because I'm an engineer. It makes me money. It helps me feed a family and kids. I don't need to believe that cars are good or bad. What is the role of belief in a corporation in the modern world?
Let's begin one by one. The customer buys a product because it believes that the product is going to give me value, right? So there comes belief. The investor invests in a company because he believes it will make him money. Okay. The employee joins a particular company over another company because he believes he's going to get a better deal in this company. The moment the belief fails, he leaves the company, or the product is not purchased by the customer, or the investor pulls out his investment. So ultimately, all actions are governed by belief. We are just not aware of it. Okay.
And you use a lot of Indian mythology as metaphors for modern day management. Well, what's the correlation between wars and princes and kings and democracy and corporations and shareholders?
Well, from where I stand, everything is a story.
Okay.
And I don't just write on Indian mythology. It's just that somewhere along the line, we have been told that ideas that come from the West are not mythology. They are real. Now that's very good storytelling. And I think that's a brilliant storytelling, but a storyteller can catch it. So the whole notion that one day when you have a democratic government, the world will be a better place is a story. It's not true. Show me the place where there's happiness in this world and there is democracy. Because most people for a long time believed that a king's kingdom would be happy. So Arthur's Camelot, or Vikramaditya's kingdom, or Ram's Rajya. These were notions of dictatorship. They were kings, right? And suddenly somebody comes along and says the government of the people, by the people, for the people will create a better place. Now that's a storytelling. Now is it true? Prove it.
That means there is a fine dividing line between what is a story, what is a superstition, and what is a superstition I'm choosing to believe in.
See, a superstition is your belief, and truth is my belief. So it's as simple as that.
All right. So one of the points you make in your book is that many people who work in companies, many people who are in business are looking for meaning in their lives.
Yes.
Isn't the modern corporation fundamentally designed not to give you any meaning? It's not designed to give you meaning. It's designed to produce cars or software or anything else.
See, it is designed to make the shareholder happy. That's the design. And we are told that is a good organization. I don't agree with that. And that's the whole notion of what I called the objective driven management. You have only one God and you have to focus on that one God and nobody else matters in the world. But Indian storytelling says everybody is a God. You are a God, I am a God, the customer is a God, the employee is a God, the investor is a God, the regulator is a God, and you have to make everyone happy. It's a very different paradigm. So I just wanted to make people aware that there are different paradigms. Not that there are better or worse paradigms, but there are different paradigms.
Most companies in the world are driven by data, numbers, balance sheets, profitability. You've made a point in your book about data being different from a story, and data can be interpreted in multiple ways.
You see, data is like stars in the sky.
Okay.
And story is how you join the dots. The stars when you join and turn it into a constellation. Constellation is not real, but without constellations, you can't divide the sky into 12 parts. It doesn't become functional.
Okay, so that's a nice metaphor. The stars exist, the connections is the story, the constellation.
So the storytelling, as I said, if the company is doing badly and the bottom line is getting eroded, I can always sell it to the market by saying that we are in this year investing for future development.
Okay.
And if you tell it correctly, the market will buy it.
Okay.
Now, is it true? It may be true if the person telling the story believes in it.
Okay.
It is not true when I don't believe in it.
Okay.
So it's as simple as that.
So companies are happy to sell stories to shareholders, to employees, and to investors.
And to themselves.
And to themselves. But within the company, it seems that storytelling is systematically killed. Everything is about process and number and predictability and workflow and Excel and pivot tables. Do stories frighten companies? The power of stories?
We do tell stories that if you align, it is a better thing to do. So you have an internal communication department which constantly says
it's actually more as either you align or else. That's the story.
Well, we align to stories when we are frightened of the alternative.
Okay.
So that's what it is. See, everything is just a question of one story or the other story.
Okay.
And I want to hard sell my stories and show a gun to you and say, do you like the story?
Okay.
And of course you'll say yes, right? Okay. So that's no choice.
And what does Indian mythology say about how to run a good company or a company that gives meaning to people's lives, that gives meanings, a purpose to the purpose of the corporation?
It asks a very fundamental question. Why are you doing the corporation? For whose benefit?
Okay.
So you have an option of saying that I do it only for my benefit. Okay. That's option one.
Okay.
But you can also say I'm doing it for your benefit. And that's also an option available.
And you being the customer or the employee?
You can be anybody.
Okay.
The wider you go, that's the infinite is the option.
Okay.
And that's the Indian approach to management. Who matters in your scheme of things? From zero, that nobody matters, to only I matter, to everyone matters.
Okay.
So Adi Ananta Shesha.
Okay. The world is full of successful companies. If you take the Fortune 500 and the top 10, which would typically be classified as ruthless players in the business, otherwise they will not reach number one. And there seems to be space for only one number one in almost every sector. Now these ruthless companies got where they are of a single-minded focus on profit and shareholder value, not because they cared about their employees or were sensitive to their needs or they worried about the meaning they added to their employees' lives. So it seems that the way for a company to be successful is to be ruthless and uncaring.
Yeah.
Where does storytelling and the Indian school of management fit in that?
See, the whole notion is that the whole notion that this is an option. If you look at it, I have an option to be ruthless.
Okay.
And the whole notion that I want to be a top dog, I want to be an animal. Now I can't stop you from being an animal, right? If you want to be an alpha and you want to be an animal, but an animal will stay an animal.
Okay.
And you have the option of not being an animal. Okay. So this whole valorization of ruthlessness. The East India Company was the world's first corporation. It sold opium to China that was grown in India.
Completely immoral. They did what they did to be successful.
Now, if you want to celebrate that,
okay,
I think you have the choice. That's the right of choice, right? You have the right to choose it, but there will be consequences.
Okay.
A ruthless man is usually not a happy man.
Okay. So you'd make money, but you won't necessarily be happy.
And that's an option. It's a valid option. I have a right not to be happy.
Okay. Ever since the 2008 crisis, a new word has entered our lexicon called conscious capitalism or conscientious capitalism. We're saying that a capitalist enterprise is fundamentally designed to make profit and deliver shareholder value, but we'll also do a little bit. We'll build a water tank, or we'll create a couple of wells for people, or we'll run a CSR program. Do you think that this is artificial caring in some sense?
No, this is a classical Western model. This is the classical Western model.
Is it guilt-induced spending?
Well, it is the tithe.
Okay.
It is the price that you pay for being a member of the church.
Okay.
It is not the Indian model.
Okay.
It's a classical model that until yesterday this was right, today this is right.
Okay.
So whatever I say is always right.
Okay.
And that's interesting model where even charity is reduced to a process.
Okay.
So there is no emotional growth.
And to 2%, to a percentage.
Yeah,
now.
so it's about material measured reality.
Okay.
And there's no emotional growth, there's no intellectual growth, there is only a check that is signed.
Okay.
Well, that's a valid choice again.
Okay.
But it's not universal choice. It's some people's choice. It doesn't have to be everyone's choice.
Okay.
And we must allow people to have those choices. If they want to follow the Western model, they have. But give me the option of having an alternate model.
All right. So my final question for you, Devdutt Pattanaik, what is the future of the capitalist enterprise as we know it today? How is it going to change in the next 10 years?
See, it has always existed. it will continue to exist.
Okay.
The difference is that the other will also manifest itself and show there is an alternate way of doing business.
Okay.
If you want to create a competitive environment, and that's the language which is heard, you will stay in the jungle and you'll always be unhappy.
Okay.
And as I said, that's a valid choice, but alternates are available if you choose.
All right, that was me, Suresh Venkat, in conversation with Devdutt Pattanaik, mythologist and Chief Belief Officer of the Future Group. For those of you interested in reading the book is called Business Sutra. Pre-orders are on. It's published by LF, and the book, Devdutt, will be available in bookshelves and online in March.
Yes.
Devdutt Pattanaik, thank you for talking to us.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you for watching.